All right, our next session, we're switching gears now, and we are going to move into a time slot with some of our cooperating federal agencies, Farm Service Agency and NRCS, who are part of USDA. And I will start with Ash. Are you with us?
Hi, yes I am, but I think as far as our presentation goes, my colleague Rochelle has the first section of the PowerPoint, so it might be easier if she
Okay,
leads.
sure. Rochelle, do you have a presentation to share with us?
Yes. Let's see if we can get it up here.
While they're doing that, I guess I'll just go ahead and start. I'm Morgan Devine, and I'm the urban conservationist for the state of New Jersey with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. So shout out to Sal for showing our web soil survey tool. But we are an arm of the USDA. We work closely with Farm Service Agency. However, we each have our own different offerings. The Farm Service Agency works a lot with us in our programs and establishing eligibility, which I will get into shortly. So I'm just going to give a very brief overview of who NRCS is, what services we can offer, and who's eligible, and some pictures of some conservation practices. So just getting into this, again, NRCS stands for the Natural Resources Conservation Service. We're an environmental arm of the USDA. Our origin story is we were formed in the 1930s out of the Dust Bowl. We were called the Soil Conservation Service, and the real aim originally was to tackle soil erosion. We work mostly with private landowners, but we also work with nonprofits. We have some agreements with municipalities, though that's kind of more rare. But a typical standard for us is to work with private landowners, farmers, ranchers, people with forest land, different things like that. Our bread and butter is kind of our conservation plan writing. So, that's kind of the bare minimum, even if you're not interested in getting financial assistance, is that conservation plan. And it's basically a working document for your operation, kind of going over, different conservation practices that you may be doing, things that you want to plan for the future. We are non-regulatory, so while we do say, for our program eligibility, we do have to comply with wetland regulations and erodible land regulations. We don't have any regulatory pull. We're not here to fine folks or anything like that. And every participation with our programs is completely voluntary. We have many different planners and specialists on staff. So for example, I'm an urban conservationist. I work mostly with small farms and urban growers, but we also have, grazing specialists. We also have soil scientists, state biologists. We have a state forester. And every county of New Jersey is covered. We have multiple offices. I'll show you a map here in a little bit that shows all of our offices and where you can go if you are interested in getting help from us. And we actually do cover every county in the United States. So here in New Jersey, we have 6 offices that cover all of our counties, but in certain states, like where I'm from in Indiana, we have like 80 offices which cover the counties there. So now I'm going to get a little bit into our assistance. So we have both financial and technical assistance. So for our NRCS programs, we are funded by the Farm Bill, which is legislation out of Congress. So right now we're working with the 2018 Farm Bill that was passed in December of 2018. They're kind of in the works of making a new Farm Bill right now. But part of that 2018 Farm Bill had a lot of language about working with small farms and urban farms, which is where my position came out of. We provide a cost share to the landowner. So where FSA might talk about some of their loan programs, what we offer, and it's not a grant, we offer more like a set rate for a certain practice. So if you're going to get irrigation installed, we would offer a set rate per square foot or per foot, a linear foot of that pipe. So our goal is to fix problems. We need to fix a resource concern. So we're not able to offer assistance on getting a farm established. Rather, we're there to help with problems you're having on the land. So just a really brief example. If you're wanting to start like a sheep farm, we can't pay for external fencing, right? For that initial fencing. But once you have that initial fencing up and you're up and running and you have animals on site, you know, we can pay to break up some of the paddocks. We can pay for livestock waterers. We can pay for pasture rejuvenation if that's an issue. So we can't work in places where there's not already something actively happening. Another case in point, if you wanted to grow tomatoes in your backyard and you wanted a high tunnel, if we went out there and there was nothing growing at the time, there was no tomatoes at all, we would say, hey, you have to at least have like some plants growing for us to help you, because we're not trying to establish the farmer or you know, create cropland that's not already cropland. So um, while we have no income limitations or size, we can work with any size, any income. You don't necessarily even have to be selling your produce to work with us. You do have to at least be growing something, or if you want to do livestock, you have to already have animals to work with us. So that being said, anyone is eligible for technical assistance. So if you're interested in getting soils investigations, we don't do any nutrient testing, but we do like physical soil examination. So that can be really helpful. You can see if there's, you know, some kind of impermeable layer in your soil or other issues going on. We also have a soil screening that can basically on the spot tell you if you have a heavy metals issue with like lead and arsenic, and that can be really important, especially in more urban sites. So even if you're not interested in any financial assistance with us, but you're saying, hey, I could really use a soils investigation, or I want to do a pollinator plot and I have no idea what to plant, we can still offer technical assistance to anyone. If you are interested in our financial assistance, though, there are certain requirements that have to be met. So first and foremost, there has to be a resource concern, like I just explained. We also look at an adjusted gross income. So you have to have this less than $900,000. And we have some sources to help you figure out how that's calculated. You do have to have control of land. So you don't have to own the land, but you have to have some kind of rental agreement. And that's because we don't want to put up a high tunnel or an irrigation system on land where you don't have control and you could, you know, get booted off in 6 months. So we have to have some kind of agreement between you and the landowner saying that they understand that, you know, for the longevity of our contract, we're putting up these conservation practices. You have to have a social security number or an employee ID number. If you're working with an LLC, the applicant has to have signature authority. And then you have to be compliant with wetland and highly erodible land requirements. I'm not going to go into that in more detail, but basically any new farm or tract of land gets an assessment from us to figure out if it's highly erodible. And if it is, there are just certain things that we have to do to make sure that we're not, you know, losing too much soil annually. So our most popular financial assistance program is the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. This is called EQIP. And this is really like our largest program, especially here in the state of New Jersey. You apply for this program. So, you know, right now, the way that it works is we have a fall deadline for the following year of funding. So if you would apply right now, you would actually be applying for fiscal year 2024 funding. While you can apply anytime, the deadline's not until September of 2023. So through this program, there's a variety of different practices that you can, you know, that you can apply for on your farm. And like I said, it's basically a set rate. So for example, for a high tunnel, we might pay $5 per square foot. And that's what we pay on. So it doesn't, you know, your cost could be completely variable, especially depending on who you get to contract it out, et cetera, et cetera. But we pay that fixed rate. So just so you can see in 2020, you know, NRCS invested 1.3 billion to help producers these conservation practices on over 10.7 million acres, and that's nationwide. Then we have a conservation stewardship program, and this probably, it sounds like on this call, we're mostly beginner farmers. This program is for folks that really don't have any resource concerns left. If they had soil health problems, they've been doing cover crops, or if they had erosion, they've taken care of it, and they really don't have that work to fix resource concerns. And so this program is sort of designed to enhance their farm and also to give them some incentive and financial credit for the conservation that they've been doing already. So for example, you know, if someone has a lot of pollinator plots already, well, you know, we could help pay to enhance that by adding more species, and then they would get an annual payment, um, you know, just for the stewardship that they're doing. Now, this is typically for people who, like I said, like they've either worked with us before or they've been doing this for a long time on their own. And, you know, they've already been doing a lot of good stewardship. So usually if you would get started with us, you would probably be a candidate for our EQIP program if, you know, you're just getting started. But I still thought I'd share that. So I just want to show an example of something that we do. And this is like a more of a large scale grain operation example. But as you can see here, there's a lot of erosion coming, a lot of sediment and water coming out of this field. And with that, it's carrying all the nutrients that would have been applied on this field. So we'll go in and we'll create a grassed waterway, which is basically just a stabilized grass channel that's helping to filter out that nutrient and sediment. It's stabilizing the field. We can actually also create crossings where equipment can cross, and it's also keeping those nutrients and sediments out of our waterways. So just some examples now of some conservation practices that we can assist with. And there are so many practices. What I'm about to show you are just a handful. But yeah, here it says we have over 170 different conservation practices. A lot of times they'll work in systems. So for example, if you're interested in fencing for grazing, you might also be doing prescribed grazing, which is like a rotation. Or if you're interested in doing reduced tillage, we might couple that with cover crops. So a lot of times you might be doing multiple practices. Each practice has its own standards and specifications, and those are available on our electronic field office technical guide, and that's just on our website. You can find that. So any practice, like if you want to see our cover crops and what our requirements for that, or our requirements for a high tunnel, like the kinds of equipment you have to use, that's all listed there on the standards. So just some pictures. High tunnels are pretty common. We do a lot of those here in New Jersey, and they can vary in size and shape. Sometimes they're rounded. This is a Gothic model, and this one actually is designed to have a heavier snow and rain load. So we have different payment scenarios. We can also help pay for ones that have a gutter system, and that gutter might connect to like a rain barrel or some kind of cistern that you could in turn, you know, use for watering your plants. So we do offer, you know, cost share for this practice, for cover crops. So large or small scale, we have payment scenarios for small scale. So even if you're only farming a small acreage or under an acre, we could, you know, help with something like cover crops, because we can also pay, you know, by the square foot. So, you know, we have practices available for pivot irrigation, and then we can also do micro irrigation, like the drip tape irrigation as well. We do have to have a stable water source, and so if you're like irrigating out of a cistern, we may not be able to fund that system, but it's a kind of a case by case thing that our engineers might have to take a look at. So we have a lot of different grazing practices, the fencing, the pipelines, heavy use area pads. So this is like an area where maybe the cattle or livestock are eating or drinking, and we could put down some gravel and some fabric there, and pasture rejuvenation. And where's this picture? Okay. And then we can also do some wildlife practices. So we have pollinator plots, you know, field borders, different things that can have different flowering shrubs, and native grasses and things like that. And then we have a new practice this year for raised beds that we can do. And we can only do raised beds if there's a contamination issue. So if you're having issues with lead or arsenic, or let's say you're on like an urban lot that has lots of rubble and not a lot of good soil, then we can do a raised bed. We can do drip irrigation. And we have a lot of different forest practices. So we can help with a forest management plan. If you have, you know, typically we do those forest management plans if you have 5 acres of forest or more. We can also do brush management, which is invasive species control, forest stand improvement. So this would be like thinning or cutting down, you know, for example, if there's a lot of ash trees, cutting those down, and structures for wildlife. So like brush piles and or bird boxes would be included in that. Um, and that's just a really small example. We have other practices as well. I just kind of showed some of the more common ones that we tend to fund here. But this slide here is just showing all of our office locations. So I'm actually, you know, out of the state office, which is now in Hamilton Square. but I cover the whole state of New Jersey. I'm actually closest to the Freehold office, but as you can see here, the Hackettstown office serves most of our northern counties, but Frenchtown's got Hunterdon, Somerset, and Union. And so if you're, whatever county you're in, this is the office you'd want to contact to get a planner to come out to your site. That being said, especially if you're on an urban site or a small farm, I can definitely also help with the process of getting you started with NRCS. And in general, tonight, if you have any questions, you don't feel like you have to just reach out to your office. If you want to get started by reaching out to me, that's totally fine, and then I can help you facilitate that process. So my email is listed here. And I know I kind of really sped through that. I just wanted to make sure that, my counterparts at FSA also have plenty of time. But if anyone has any questions or anything like that, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you, Morgan. If you have any questions for Morgan, you can put them in the chat and we will touch on those after the end of the session. Who is up next?
I'm going to be screen sharing the PowerPoint, and Rochelle's going to be starting.
So kind of as Morgan already started, so we do work alongside NRCS, but the Farm Service is a separate agency under the United States Department of Agriculture umbrella. And as you can see there, we just try to help our farmers and ranchers in America. So you can go to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to talk about loans, and then after I'm done, Ash is going to talk about our programs. So they are a little bit different. We all work in the same office and we work together, but they are kind of separate entities a little bit in that circumstance. And then we also work like with NRCS as well, like we kind of talked about, and our offices are located in like the same area. So you could do one-stop shopping if you want to talk to NRCS, and then if you want to hop on over, you can talk to a Farm Service as well. All right, you can go to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to give like a very, very fast overview. Like others have said, it seems like you guys are more kind of like beginning farmers, so I'm going to try to kind of gear everything towards that. But basically, we offer a few different types of loans. So we offer farm ownership loans, which is basically to purchase property. Then we offer operating loans, then followed by emergency loans and microloans. We do have youth loans, which are exactly that for people like 18 years and younger. I'm not really going to talk about that too much on here as we don't use them a lot. Okay, you can go to the next one. So I want to try to quickly talk about this. So like we do not have any specific loans for beginning farmers and ranchers. You can apply to like any of the loans that I'm going to talk about here. As far as USDA is concerned, a beginning farmer is anyone that has 10 years or less of experience, and basically you just have like separate funding that you pull through, but there's not one specific type of loan made for specifically beginning farmers and ranchers. You would just apply to any of like the regular loans that I'm going to go through here. But so there's different requirements for the different types of loans. And then you do need to be kind of like the owner and operator of your operation. Okay, next one. Okay, so this one is for a farm ownership. So this is kind of, as it said, basically to purchase a farmland, or you could to build like a larger barn or structure, something like that. We do deal a little bit with conservation, but for the most part, NRCS really kind of handles that. So for our farm ownership loans, we can only go up to $600,000. And that is a total indebtedness. So like you can't apply to buy one farm for $600 and then say, 5 years later, apply for another one for $600,000. You can only have a grand total with the agency at one time of up to $600,000 for this kind of like farm property. So for guaranteed loans, you're going to see that come up for operating loans as well. So a guaranteed loan is where we work with another more like typical lender. So maybe Farm Credit East, First National Bank, Fulton, anything like that. You basically work with that lender, and then Farm Service will just guarantee the loan up to about 90%. So it takes a lot of risk out of like for that regular lender to kind of promote them to work with farmers and especially people that are maybe just starting out or traditionally underserved. Our maximum term for these are 40 years, and it just kind of depends on your plan about how many years you would get. And then our interest rates do change monthly. But for February, our farm ownership loan interest rate is at 4.75%. Okay, you can go to the next one. Okay, so these are operating loans. So we have two different types. We have an annual operating loan, which is just as it states, it's just 1 year. And that's going to be for your like normal operating expenses. So you need to pay fertilizer, seed, chemicals, just a 1-year expense. And then we have term operating loans, which can go up to 7 years. And that would be kind of like to purchase animals, a tractor, fencing, maybe like a small shed, something like that. And then for these, we can go up to $400,000. And just as I stated for the last one, that's a total indebtedness to the agency. So you can have multiple operating loans at one time, but your total debt for operating cannot exceed $400,000. But you can have both. So you could have a $600,000 farm ownership loan, and you could have multiple operating loans. They just kind of stay separate in that regard. Same with our interest rate. They change monthly, but for February, it is 4.75%. Okay, you can go to the next one. Sorry, I'm trying to go really fast here. Emergency loans, they are popping up quite a bit right now. And that's when we get like a disaster declaration. So for 2022, we do have one in effect for the drought. For these, you can go up to $500,000. And basically, you could either do a production loss or a physical loss to replace maybe your plants or fields, or you lost a lot of trees, or you just had damage. All right, you can go, there's two, so you can go to the next one. And you do need to have a minimum of a 30% loss on at least one crop to be eligible for a production loss emergency loan. Okay, and I think there's like one more. Okay, so microloans are probably going to be the most applicable to some of you. This is kind of like our easiest one. It's anything I just talked about, but it's $50,000 or less. And for this, you only need to have basically 1 year of experience to be eligible for a microloan. So you could purchase a small piece of land for $50,000, or you could maybe buy a tractor, fencing, something like that. And kind of just to touch on what she talked about earlier, I know you guys are working on Schedule F. We really do like to see the Schedule F on your tax returns, like for your business. So that's definitely beneficial. And I do think this would be like a good option for maybe some of you as you're kind of getting started. Okay, is there one more for me? Okay, and then now we're going to kind of transition over to Ash.
Yes, so we have farm storage facility loans as well, and they are loan programs that are more directly administered by the Farm Service Agency rather than the loan department. And that's kind of why I'm talking about this. I'm a county program technician with the Hackettstown office of the Farm Service Agency up in Warren County. So I am, if you saw that map earlier, I'm that section of the state that I predominantly take care of. We offer farm storage facility loans that, like it says, they're low interest financing to build or upgrade storage and handling facilities. And so with the other farm loan programs, while you'll need to show a lack of commercial creditability, you'll need to have, some degree of reason that you're not getting a loan through a traditional lender. You don't need to do that with the farm storage facility loans. So those can be up to $500,000, and they also offer microloans up to $50,000. And there's a variety of things that, that can be used on. And the one big thing to keep in mind, loans do need to be approved before any preparation or construction begins. And that's, oftentimes these are kinds of things that are a little bit time sensitive. So you'd really want to be proactive about that if that's something you're interested in. The interest rates, again, change monthly. They're fixed for the term of the loan, but here's what the rates are this month. They're going to vary depending upon the length of the loan that you're taking out. Now, within the Farm Service Agency, a lot of the programs that we offer are specifically disaster assistance programs. And like the name says, they're going to provide assistance for losses due to natural disasters. And what we consider to be a natural disaster does include most of the common things, especially in this part of the country. So, in the event of a drought or a freeze, a hurricane, moisture or hail, and then some other, hopefully we don't have any bigger tornadoes coming up more than we have to. So one of our main disaster assistance programs, it's NAP, it's the Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program. And so it provides financial assistance of non-insurable crops when losses are from natural disasters. So if you look at the list of eligible crops down there on the slide, you'll notice a lot of those are vegetables. There's a lot of fruits that can be covered through it too. And the reason for that is to be eligible for NAP assistance, crops need to be non-insurable, crops or commodities for which catastrophic risk coverage isn't available for crop insurance. So this isn't really a program for your, agronomic commodity crops. It's more for people who are interested in growing fruits and vegetables and other things like that. And it sort of fills the gap where crop insurance doesn't really offer anything there. So the way it kind of works from an administrative standpoint, you need to report to the office what you're growing, when you planted it, where you planted it, how much of it you're growing. And that's something that you'd need to let us know about ahead of time. We do have a deadline, and that is dependent upon what particular crop it is. And we need production numbers. And that really speaks to the importance, and I'm sure this is something that you hear a lot, that really speaks to the need for record keeping to kind of take advantage of a lot of these programs. We do need to know how much of something you're producing on how much land to calculate these things. So whatever you can do to provide that's going to be an important part of this. And then when a loss is apparent due to a disaster, you'll need to let the office know within 72 hours. That way someone can get sent out to inspect it and verify and, look at what the situation on the ground is so we can go about putting a payment together. So as far as the premiums on this, it starts at catastrophic level coverage, and it's going to depend on how many different types of crops you want to insure and how many different counties you're in. That said, that service fee is actually waived for beginning farmers. Again, that's, people with less than 10 years of farming or ranching experience, limited resource farmers, and socially disadvantaged and historically underserved farmers. That does include women within that category. So if that's something that you're interested in, that would be really good to be aware of. So CAT coverage is going to start at 50% of the production at 55% of the national average market price. And you can buy up on that if you want additional coverage. The amount that you're going to need to pay for that is, again, going to be dependent upon what level of coverage you're interested in. There is also a 50% discount on the additional premium that you would see for that if you're a beginning farmer, limited resource, socially disadvantaged, or historically underserved. So that's something that's, that's a really good offer to be aware of if you are interested in the types of crops that this program would cover. Another disaster program that we offer is TAP. It's the Tree Assistance Program. And That's going to provide assistance for after disasters for orchards or nursery tree growers. And the thing to keep in mind for that, there needs to be a loss of at least 15% of eligible trees or vines, in addition to the 3% mortality rate that's considered normal. And after getting your payment approved for that, everything does need to be replanted within 12 months. And there's a couple different types of crops that are eligible within that program. We offer ELAP, the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program, and that's disaster assistance for livestock, honeybees, and farm-raised fish. The thing to keep in mind with honeybees, it needs to specifically be a loss due to adverse weather, or CCD, the colony collapse disorder for honeybees. It needs to be above the normal mortality rate of 23%. And this is another one where you'll need to be participating with the office ahead of time. You need to report how many hives you have where and how many bees every year before January 2nd is the deadline. So that's something where you need to kind of, have these records and proactively work with us on it if you are interested in participating in this program. We also have OCCSP. It's the Organic Certification Cost Share Program. So if you're interested in obtaining or renewing organic certification under the National Organic Program, you can get some assistance paying the cost for it. So organic growers would be interested in that. And you also might want to get more information on OTECP, that's our Organic and Transitional Education and Certification Program. And that sort of builds upon the cost share and has, a couple more options and things you can do with that. So anyone who's interested in organic growing, I would really urge reaching out to the office, looking online, and trying to get more information on that. There's a lot of support offered in that area. And there's also two programs here that are going on right now. They're one-time programs. The application period is right now. And for those of you who do have, a couple of years of agricultural experience under your belt, this could be something that could work out for you. And the way it works, it's the Emergency Relief Program, ERP, and the Pandemic Assistance Revenue Program. ERP is specifically related to disasters, whereas PARP is looking at revenue lost as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And both of these programs are going to be comparing your revenue in a specific year. For PARP, it's 2020, whereas for ERP, it's based upon years you might have had a disaster in, so that's 2020 or 2021. And it's going to be comparing your revenue in that circumstance to your revenue in a benchmark year, it's called. Here's how much money I made this year. Here's how much money I would have had, had these events not occurred. And there is, elements within these programs that account for growth of operation and expected cash flow versus the cash flow you actually got. This sort of ties back nicely, actually, to the beginning of this session, because having a Schedule F and having all of your finances prepared and written out orderly is really a pivotal part of this program and can help a lot with your application. So that ties together really nicely. But the application for both of these programs is ongoing. They both close June 2nd. So anyone who was farming during this period, I would definitely urge that you reach out for additional information if you're looking to apply. So if you're interested in keeping up to date with our information, we have newsletters you can subscribe to via email and text. There's a link there you can subscribe and you can view our different bulletins and newsletters. And you can also get updates texted right to your phone. That is county by county. You can see the information there. You'd want to text your county to 372-669. And that's really good because when new programs come out, you're going to be made aware of it, and then you can get on top of it. And that's really useful. And again, here's a map of the different offices across the state. You can see that they're sort of dispersed. So hopefully there's one that's closer to you, and that's the office that's going to be assisting with your program applications. You can reach out to them with the phone numbers here, And if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to Rochelle or I. Here's our emails right here. And even if you're not within our county's jurisdiction, we can definitely help you or point you in the right direction of someone who can. And likewise, you can email us if you have something that worked better that way or you'd prefer not to make a phone call. By all means, definitely reach out and we're more than happy to help. So as far as the presentation goes, I think that's what we've got right now. And if there are any questions, I know I'd be happy to help what I can and send you in the right direction for what I can.
Ash,
I'll add. Oh, so can I add really quickly? Sorry.
Of course.
I technically cover all of North Jersey and I'm covering Central Jersey right now. So if you have any, even if you're not, located in those areas, even if you're in South Jersey, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can kind of get you started. And then if you are in South Jersey, I can kind of hand you over to the right person.
okay, thank you. Ash, we have one question in the chat. Is there a more extensive list of allowable uses for the farm storage facility loan?
Yes, so as far as the allowable uses, we have additional resources on our website, and I can get you the link for that. But ultimately, the best way, if you have any questions about that or something kind of falls between the lines, the best way to get a direct answer is going to be to contact the county office, and we can help you, firsthand with that. But I can see if I can pull up the link to the FSA website real quick for you.
All right, thank you.